one state, some place to be. Some place you wouldn't know probably.
All my time is spent focused on my freedom now. Why would I join them when I know that I could beat them now? They put their words on me and they can eat them now. That's probably why they keep on telling me I'm needed now. They tried to box me out while taking what they want from me. I spent too many years living too uncomfortably, making room for people who didn't like the labor but wanted the spoils, greedy, selfish behavior. Now let me give it to you balanced and with clarity.
Manifested everything, it started with a thought. Planting all these seeds, real growth is what it brought. I got everything I need, I don't even need a phone. Had to break out the illusion, it's a mindset thing. I had to switch the lens on it, I was blind to things. But now I'm nourishing my body, I align with things. Could get anything I want in all the finer things. Yeah, wants and your needs are different personalities. Ain't no need to rush when the magic moving manually. Circle smaller than the sea, we reach the full capacity. Could never duplicate the soul, create my own reality.
Tonight's The Truth Unlimited Victorious Outcast video podcast is supported by the Total Life Changers, where your health matters. Awaken your mind, body, and spirit with the popular products NutriBurst Dietary Supplement and ISO Tea with the dynamic full spectrum of hemp extract from Total Life Changers, where we provide products and community that you will feel. Also, be ready in 2022 to join the Destiny Reignition Program, a mindset-changing course that is taking people from potential to power. Be on the lookout for more information about that shortly in 2022. Registration will start soon. Okay, Victorious Outcast Tribe, it's the finale of Her Story Month, and it's going down today. We are blessed to have our dear sister that will
save your life. Bing bong.
The dynamic, intelligent, skilled, talented, and super servant leader who is the founder of Brown Girls Glow, an organization teaching young women the importance of giving, leading, owning, and writing their own destiny. I am privileged to know her as the co-founder of Parables from the Projects Production, a co-hosted dad and daughter podcast. As a digital content creator for outlets such as Black Enterprise, Blavity's Shadow and Act, All Deaf Digital, and NBC Black, this phenomenal woman writes stories and scripts surrounding social justice issues, the business of sports, as well as film and television. Additionally, she has launched 2 digital shows on her YouTube channel that you should definitely check out. She received her bachelor's degree from Hampton University and continued her education at Harvard University, where she received her master's degree. Our guest today offers her story to all and empowers people to find their passion and to pursue it with all they have. Originally from East New York, she moves where business takes her, whether it's in Los Angeles, Atlanta, or New York City. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for our fearfully and wonderfully made sister, Miss Mia Hall.
Hey, who y'all talking about?
Hey, what you talking about, Willis? What's good, family? How are you?
I'm well. I'm excited now after all of that. I'm like, wait, they got somebody else coming on about
Yeah, I like to get you amped with your intro because sometimes we don't recognize the accomplishments and the journeys that we've gone through, right?
Yes.
You do not look like what you've been through. You look like you've been bathing in the fountain of youth. What's going on?
Man, that ain't nobody but Jesus. Keeping me seriously.
Listen, I know you grew up in East New York. Can you tell us if there was any moment in your upbringing that you could have imagined you working in media and empowerment?
Woo. Yeah, growing up in East New York, what did I didn't. I didn't really think that I could, not that I could, but my sights were set on the things that I saw in media, my sights were set on the things that I saw on TV, the things that like basketball, we had a basketball court right across the street. I saw people, playing basketball on TV that looked like me. I was like, this is my path. Or I saw entertainment. I was like, hey, I can be a singer or something like that. But then I realized I couldn't sing. So that's why, I kind of had to just choose a different path. I did dance, so I was thinking I could be a ballerina, all these things as a kid. But, I just saw myself doing, what I saw other Black women doing, on TV. And that's the only place that I really saw it. Granted, my mom worked hard as a secretary for several years. But I just knew I wanted to do. I didn't know I wanted to do something entertainment, whether it's sports or entertainment. I saw that, but yeah, media and empowerment. I didn't even know what empowerment was, but I knew that there were a lot of people that cared about me. Including my family that knew the importance of education. And I believe that I think, at a young age, I could realize that I wanted to help people, but so many people helped me.
Yeah, we get these these nourishment to our seeds that start to allow us to recognize what our purpose and plans are that God has as we journey through our obstacles and navigating puberty and young life. Um, as an Afro Cuban Rican sharing the African American culture, um, I know that we are fortunate enough to extract lessons and knowledge and recognize that the elders have something to offer. Those who don't understand that kind of get left behind. I know when I was 16 and leaving Queens to go upstate to go to college and play ball with some of the local guys who were already up there, I reached out to a community organization called Espida and helped me to understand what it is to look for a program in communications and media arts and what schools had the most hands-on education concerning broadcasts and media arts. And I know that you are one of those who recognize the value of our elders and how our ancestors have paved the foundation for us to build upon. Who were some of the people in your amazing journey who have helped you build the foundation that you walk on today?
Yeah, shoot, so many people, and I'm so thankful for like each and every one of them. But I guess it starts with, of course, like my family, because my mom, every Christmas she made sure she got me an educational toy. My aunt, you know, she just encouraged the arts. And, you know, my grandmother, I grew up in a house full of books. Honestly, I mean, we were in the projects, you know what I'm saying? Like still, you know, like my whole family, you know, aunt, uncle, my mom, you know, cousin, like grandma, everybody lived there in this 2-bedroom apartment. But, you know, but my grandmother had collected books like over her years of actually cleaning people's houses. So education was always big for me. So my family was the first inspiration, I'll say that. And my mom always had a book in her hand. Like she was constantly reading. So, you know, education, reading, like my family always encouraged that. Now, as far as they also, you know, as far as outside organizations, they also always wanted me to be involved in something. Since I was 3 years old, I was in the East New York Theatrical Workshop. Shout out to everybody in, you know, Pink Houses Community Center. I used to go to that one. But, you know, so that was the 2 Lindas and Donnies and, you know, these men and women, they allowed me the opportunity to learn dance. So I did that from like 3 to like 12. I was a dancer. And then, you know, by the time I got to middle school, I was in a program. I mean, I didn't, my middle school didn't have dance. And so I started playing basketball because they did have basketball. And I played basketball for a few years, played in high school. And this organization called Power Play NYC. Shout out to them. They were on the Today Show recently. So I'm thankful that, you know, they gave me opportunity. They had an opportunity to be on there, win $15,000. Like, you know, the organization's doing well now. But years ago, I was in like their first kind of like cohort program. And they introduced me to women that looked like me, but that worked at like Madison Square Garden, that worked for the New York Knicks, that, you know, worked for ESPN, that worked for WFAN radio, like women that worked in sports. And I was like, like they might have used to play sports, but, you know, they introduced me to all these women that worked in sports. So that's where a lot of like my motivation came from, to take my education seriously, to dream big, to, you know that if sports doesn't work out, I can own a team. I can, you know, be the head of business development for a team, head of community relations for a team. So Power Play, and then Acres, I'll say, you know, I'll stop with that program. And then Apex too. I got to give them a shout out. But Acres, American Civil Rights Education Services, you know, that they took me on a tour of the South, on a lot of the places in the civil rights movement through Alabama, Tennessee, you know, Atlanta, Georgia, just like all of these places, Selma, Alabama, you know, we went to like all these sites. So that really, you know, made me want to say, you know, these people bled and died for me to have a good education. For me to have an education, period. Like, you know, black people weren't allowed to read, you know, that was against the law. So, you know, so it,
ridiculous.
Yeah, it gave me so much context.
And they're trying to turn things back as we speak.
Critical race theory, yeah,
With the critical race theory, they just told teachers they can't talk about gay folks. I mean, it's really ridiculous.
Yeah.
I know you are a mover and a shaker, and you still got the young juices flowing in you, and all this agelessness is running up in here. With that all being said, in this season, how do you keep your balance? What do you do to practice self-care? Because you be repping, my dear sister.
Yes. Yeah, to practice self-care. I mean, one of my mentors, who, another shout out to him, Alfred Edmond Jr., talked about, like, you know, sometimes it's not as much of a balance as much as it is of sometimes you have to mix. And like, granted, you know, thankfully, you know, a lot of times we're able to work from home. So, you know, self-care for me, I love coffee shops. I don't necessarily love coffee. Like, I am a coffee drinker, but I'm not like obsessed. I can't tell you like the notes of the coffee and, you know, where did it come from, the origin. I can't tell you that, but I love like when somebody puts care into the atmosphere. So that's a form of self-care for me, being able to go get a matcha latte, you know, even if I'm working at the same time, you know, but there are times that I have to, you know, take a break. Even now, like I'm taking a long break, you know, so that I can reset. You know, going to Barnes and Noble, that's self-care for me. Getting my, you know, getting my nails done and, you know, manicure, pedicure, letting somebody else do that, letting somebody else do my hair. That's, you know, self-care. Like, I can do it myself, yes, but, you know, form of self-care is just being like, you know what, I feel like sitting back, relaxing, having somebody else massage my head. You know what I mean?
Delegate.
Yeah, so massages, I do get massages when I can. But yeah, and shout out to my deceased former boyfriend. He used to get massages like all the time, at least once a month. So Luke Severe, he definitely encouraged that, helped me to learn a lot more about self-care. I'm gonna get to the level of letting other people do my laundry. I haven't gotten there yet, but
You don't want people all up in your business, but I get that, and my condolences to your loss. I definitely know that he was a great community impacting brother, not to mention just a loving and endearing human being, Brother Luke.
Yeah. Shout out to Luke.
Shout out to Luke. I didn't want to resurrect any grieving on the podcast, but I'm glad you brought him up because he is a blessed brother, and y'all made a wonderful couple. And part of who you are here today is because your spirit shines so bright, just like Luke's, that it opens doors and allows your voice to be heard without necessarily well, it gets you in the room, and then you got to show what you know. But I appreciate your spirit. And as I researched for this podcast, I realized that you are a heavy hitter.
Oh, thank you. God is good. Love God.
Yeah, and I'm like, you look the same throughout college until now. I'm like, wow, rocking this youth thing. But moving toward our main topic of turning setbacks into impact, is this happening in terms of your Brown Girls Glow, the organization that you founded to teach young women the importance of giving, leading, owning, and writing their own destinies? Are you turning young people's lives around with this foundation?
That's the goal. That's the goal. I have had, young women, thankfully, through the high school youth program at the church I attended in Los Angeles, Faithful Central. So it's called The Source. And I've had the opportunity to have about 4 groups of young women come through. So they have, said that they have built confidence. They've built relationships with each other. Most importantly, have built their relationship with God, and come into a better relationship with Him, finding their purpose in Him, finding His will for their lives. So yeah, thankfully, I have been able to make an impact on young women in the Los Angeles area, and I'm looking to expand it in the future for sure. Like so many people when I was in high school, inspired me. So I want to do the same thing for that critical time, for that, high school age, right before you're kind of like going out in the world. I really want to, inspire and encourage and build confidence in young brown women specifically, who sometimes are just, pushed out, as, people say. So yeah, I definitely, that's my goal.
That's a cool goal. It's the philosophy of the podcast to pay wisdom forward. It is also evident in our communities of color that when we lack exposure, we lack humility. And when we get to that age where testosterone and stuff are overflowing, we kind of think we know all there is to know. But when we surround ourselves with mentors and coaches and engage in team activities and community organizations, we allow ourselves to develop and grow. I know teaching the next generation to formulate the courage that it takes to break through our comfort zones and have this authentic relationship building is a wonderful opportunity that you provide. And I want to know, what are some of the challenges that some of the young women have faced, and what does it look like when they are successful in the program?
Yeah, some of the challenges young women face are, that they've told me is, getting focused, I think. There's so many distractions and, with social media and, just, what else? Whether it's, just people and, in general, and also social media, it offers this place of comparison where, and now, oh, I thought I was doing good, but now I see her and she's, doing all this, like, why can't I be like her, whatever, whatever. So, I think that it, at least that, that's kind of what they share sometimes. And, through the program, they're able to know, like, you know what, you're in competition with yourself. You're not in competition with anybody else. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. That's definitely like, one of the main scriptures I tell them. And also that, we want their light to shine in the darkness. You know what I mean? Like God has given them a light, and to shine through them, to allow them to glow, you know what I mean, in the darkness. So I think that, being able to overcome the distractions, overcome, those things that the thief of joy that comparison is, I think that that's some of the things that they've been able to overcome through the program.
And I believe that navigation that we need to learn through our mentors to overcome our obstacles and to bob and weave emotional triggers is important. As a baby boomer, trying to keep track with folks like you who have a crazy amount of energy is a task in itself. I need a coach for that. But that being said, tell us about Mia's full court press, what it is, and how it came to be.
Yeah, so Mia's full court press, it came when I was working in sports. Like I said, I started playing basketball when I was about 12 years old, and I had a great passion for sports. I thought I was going to go into the WNBA. I tried out for my college team at Hampton University, Division I women's basketball. Shout out to the Lady Pirates. But I think that I was a little bit too good for the team because I didn't get that call back. So I was like, I don't think the competition, they didn't want it to be so skewed. At least that's what I told myself. So, so then, I tried to get into the journalism program. That didn't work out. And I was like, you know what, let me go back to my core, sport management. I love sports. Probably not gonna, excel on the court. So let me go off the court. So I changed my major to sport management. And that's when I started to work in sports. And so, just really had a lot of experiences, like I said, for 10 years in sports, worked at the WNBA. I worked at Power Play NYC, the organization that I said helped me so much in school. I worked at the High School of Sports Management, and then I worked at Barclays Center with the Brooklyn Nets and all of their other properties. So Mia's Full Court Press came out of my passion for like reporting. And I wanted to do my personal blog. And I was like, I want to tell these stories, for Slam Magazine, for Black Enterprise, but I also want to be able to like tell my own stories. So that's what Mia's Full Court Press was. So Mia's Full Court Press is an opportunity for me to like, take interviews to the next level or a little bit deeper. So that was fun. That was fun while I was on my run. And if I was going to an event that, I didn't want to be covered in Slam or, Black Enterprise, maybe it was a smaller event for a young girl or something like that. Like I could put it on Mia's Full Court Press. And I used to love Lala. I still love Lala Anthony, but she had Lala's Full Court Life. And, I was like, oh, Mia's Full Court Press and, press with the media. So, yeah.
Sure, you always got to take advantage of the nomenclature of what's out so that it can become popular as well. Have you always been an advocate of women's sports, and how did that develop? Was it a branch off from your ball playing journey?
Yeah, I think so. And so many women like helped me, and being a woman, I recognize, the difference, like, even in high school and the difference between, women's sports and men's sports. I noticed that at an early age. So I definitely, I think gained my passion to support it, in high school and, just as I saw how much it means for women as well. They say like 80% of professionals of like CEOs and things like that, women professional played sports at some point in their life. So it's just such like a confidence builder, such a character development tool for women. So I think it's very important. So that's why I support women's sports for sure.
I think you have some heavenly sprinkles on you because your ability to recognize the next step in your journey is amazing. I witness you with people like Chris Webber, Eric Thomas, Lecrae, even The Answer, Allen Iverson, and they all seem to feel right at home with you. Are you using your secret weapon smile on them? Or did you notice that you had a gifted communication style, or did you have to work on that journalistic interviewing style?
um yeah,
Because
definitely
folks are opening up to you.
thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I definitely would say it's something that I had to work on. It's, a skill that I've been building since, I want to say maybe 2000 or something like that. But I mean, I'm probably before that. Like me and my friend in high school, like we do word on the street, like, just asking people on the street, like, okay, what movie do you like? What did you think of this movie, Spider-Man? Shout out to Omar. But so yeah, so it's been a long time, trying to build that skill and and I think that they see, the Holy Spirit in me, to be quite honest, they just feel that, so I'm thankful that they, feel comfortable enough, to open up to me. But yeah, it's a combination. It's a combination for sure.
I bet. Let me see. You're a wonderful person that's near and dear to my heart. Do you know why?
Why?
Well, it's not because you have a spirit that lights up the room, and it's not because um, your namaste, that the God in me sees the God in you. And it's not because we share a love of media and journalism, not even because of your commitment to excellence and your work ethic from the ancestors, although you are all those things. What I'm highlighting in this moment on the podcast is that you blessed me with the first opportunity to be a guest on a podcast. And for that,
Hey, okay, awesome. Awesome.
yeah,
That was fun. We had a good time.
I was developing new skill sets, and it was no better place to do that than on the podcast Parables for the from the Projects, who you co-host with your father. How is he doing, by the way?
Pops is good. Pops is well, man. He's out in LA, like out in Hollywood, like, just
Nice.
doing his thing.
What's up?
Yep. So yeah, Pops is, he's on his journey, honestly. He started his comedic journey, a few years ago, and now he's one looking to take it to the next level. So, he's he's doing what he gotta do. He's out there.
That's a good look. That podcast is amazing, and if I remember correctly, is it based on your journey from the projects to Ivy League?
Yeah, yep. So it's based on my journey from the hood to Harvard and my dad's journey from Rikers Island to righteousness. And it's really just how it talks about wherever you're from, like we learn lessons from where we grew up, right? And Jesus told through parables, but a lot of us learn through stories from our families, from people that, from elders in the neighborhood or even from our peers, right? We learn a lot of lessons, through stories of where we come from. So and it's really about like how where we came from prepares us for life, prepares us for things that we're doing today. So that's why we wanted to tell, what's the parables from the projects, what's the parables from your childhood, what's the parables from anybody's childhood that helped them to be the person that they are today, so that they could inspire other people who might be going through the same thing, who might be going through a difficult time. And you can learn from somebody else, like, hey, if they overcame that, then so can I.
Yeah, it's a great tool of modeling overcoming, which I'm all about in these spaces of victorious outcasts. Um, with that being said, what are one or two memorable nuggets from your journey on this podcast that you and your audience have taken away in your journey as a co-host and founder of a parables parables from the projects podcast?
Wow. There has been a lot. We've had a lot of people on. But I think maybe two of the biggest takeaways. Honestly, that, a lot of us have shared experiences, right? A lot of us have been through similar situations. And what I've learned is that when we talk about it, it helps us to feel more connected and it grounds us. So I think just learning like people's stories, some people that I've known for years, I didn't know they grew up in the projects, or I just didn't know like their backstory. And hearing it, it's like, oh wow, I've either been through similar situations, or they just inspire me. Like, man, if they were able to come through that and make it here, like this gives me insight on my path. Like I'm looking to do more into production, and looking to do more writing, and looking to transition careers. So I'm learning from people's stories, like that what's possible, and also that a lot of us came from similar situations. So yeah, so I think learning what's possible through other people's stories and how they got to their careers, and just, or how they overcame and whatever they're doing. And also like that it grounds me and builds community. I've learned that, like that once I talk to people more and learn more about their history, like it's a one thing to learn about what you're doing now, but to learn where you grew up, and your family history and things like that, like that brings me closer to people, and it makes me feel like more deeply connected with people.
Yeah, and we don't grow in a vacuum. I
No.
was fortunate enough to start seminary when A.R. Bernard was teaching at the Alliance Theological Seminary, and that's one of
Nice.
the things he impressed upon us
Nice.
is we don't grow in a vacuum, but we grow in community, and we allow ourselves to stop comparing and be humble when we understand that we're not alone in this human journey, and that God will show up in our lives like he shows up in other people's testimony and stories. Speaking of testimonies and stories, I know that you are a producer and a journalist, and in addition to sports, I know you also cover social justice issues. What are some of the most important topics in the news occurring today that need more media coverage, that need proper truth telling, if you will? That if you had a choice to pick and choose a couple of uncovered or undercovered stories, what would one or two of those stories be? Like, for example, we all know that more noise needs to be made in an effort to negotiate the release of WNBA star center Brittany Griner and her detainment in Russia. But what are some of the social justice needs, stories that need to get a light shined on them, if you will?
Yeah, I would say one, I think education, and just really this whole this, I mean, critical race theory, it gets I feel like it gets covered in the news, but in the wrong way, and not in a way that people are educated about it, because it's taking the focus off, like what about just the underfunded school, like what about just schools in certain neighborhoods that just have no music or arts or sports programs, you know what I mean? So it's like it's so focused on this like one thing. We need that education, and trust me, like teachers that have a majority of students of color, that are of color, they're still going to teach, you know what I mean, about race. Hopefully, I know that I was fortunate enough, Miss Herbert and my teachers at 273, they taught about Black history, and just made sure that our history wasn't erased. But there's so many other issues in education that we need to be focused on getting schools the resources that they need, like and just children in general, especially that are like either impoverished or even just class wise, just can't afford like, food and things like that. So, thankfully there's schools like Research and Service, Principal Dr. Farrington with, food pantries and things like that. Like we need to be focused on that, like how to, be able to provide for these students and, 360 degrees. What about the homeless students and, things like that, getting them housing, things like that. So I think that education in general, we can always cover that more, especially like underfunded and, under-resourced schools and programs.
Yeah.
Then,
And go ahead, continue, please.
No, I was just going to say, no, the second thing I was going to say is just, like young women's rights, and then just just massive, like, the sex trafficking and things like that, like that's going on. And, even the programs that, try to help the young women, like, they need funding to be able to, the young women need funding to go back into society. You know what I mean? Like, so that's just an issue that I feel like we don't hear talked about enough. And, that can use a lot more attention.
I agree. And then there's so much misogyny modeled in society today. And the critical race theory is a false narrative to begin with. And it's just a tool to manipulate folks who are not willing to do their own critical thinking and research to understand that they're being manipulated and they need to step up their game. Listen, I know that you speak and adhere to the philosophy of it's not only who you know, but it's also who knows you.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that being said, as a producer, educator, coach, keynote speaker, and career strategist, as part of your portfolio, seeking to help me pay wisdom forward today by turning setbacks into impact. Can you share with our audience just a few attributes about networking and relationship building that can change the trajectory of some of our listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like what you said that I, always say, and I always tell people, because a lot of people say, oh, it's not just what you know, it's who you know. And granted, it's great for you to know people, you know what I mean? But the real power of networking, or I think something that's often missed, is being known by people. And what I mean by that is, staying on people's radar, you following up with people, just, letting them know how you are, letting them know what you're up to. And that can be, whether it's a text, or email, note, like, just staying on people's mind, because you can have a relationship, but what if you haven't talked to them in 2 years? Like if an opportunity comes up, like you say, you're a producer, if an opportunity comes up for a production, they'll remember the last person that emailed them, or the person that emailed them like 2 weeks ago, rather than the person that emailed them, 2 years ago, or that they met at an event 2 years ago. So it's really, a follow-up is important, because of course, like, yes, it's important to network and meet people and, go to conferences and, even if it's online, or host your own events. Like, I also love the quote as far as like networking and, building up relationships, of don't just wait for a producer, produce yourself. So if there aren't events that you feel like you can meet people in, so then start your own, thankfully me and this young woman, Jasmine, we were part of the LA Urban League, and we were part of their entertainment committee. And we said, we're going to host an event. We're going to host an entertainment panel. And that, like, not only did other people get to meet people, of course we got to meet people. We got to meet, the panelists, and, and these are people that are respected in the industry, Denise Davis, James Bland, like, all these people, Ayanna Henderson, and people that worked at Marvel, like we were able to, network with them. So I would also suggest, having your own events. And you are the average of the 5 people that you hang out with the most. So know your circle. Know, they talk about you're the average of the 5 people you text last. You know what I mean? So like, it's like, if you want to, or even emailed, right? So just knowing, like, being intentional about the emails that, you're sending, the relationships that you're building, and being intentional about staying in touch with these people, so that when opportunities become available, they can be like, oh yeah, I remember her. Even being on social media, that has gotten me some opportunities that people have remembered me because I share, what I do on social media. So, sometimes I won't lie, social media does give me anxiety at times, so it's not like it's easy. It's not, something that I always enjoy even doing, but, I know that sometimes it's necessary for people to remember me, or, you know what I mean? Think about me when opportunities become available.
Yeah, social media, when you're using it intentionally, can put a little pressure on you. When you're just using it all willy nilly, it can be consuming.
Yeah, yeah. Eh, a lot
Listen,
of times, yeah.
I saw you um, talking to Dominique Dawes, and as we bring this episode to a close, I want to mention to you that in that interview with Dominique Dawes, the Olympic champion, the gymnast, during that interview, she mentioned in giving advice to current Olympic athletes, a very similar answer that the current Supreme Court Justice nominee, Ketanji Brown Jackson, recently declared in advising those wanting to follow in her footsteps, and that is to persevere.
Mm.
And I wanted to know, as a closing question, what are your thoughts on the power of perseverance as it relates to the topic of our episode, turning our setbacks into impact? How does perseverance play in that atmosphere?
Yes, I think it's absolutely critical for us to be able to turn our setbacks into impact. We have to persevere beyond those setbacks, right? So a setback is just a setup for a comeback, right? And so once we get the setback, we have to look at it as, okay, this wasn't a failure. This is a lesson learned. If this is like you brought up Dr. Bernard, he always talks about, you know, manure can always be fertilizer, right? Manure is just fertilizer for us to grow, right?
Yeah,
So we have to make sure that we persevere beyond the setback. We not only look at it and change our perspective on it, that, is this a setback, or is this an opportunity for me to grow, an opportunity for me to learn a lesson, an opportunity for me to reset, restructure, and keep going. I also love CJ from the Secret to Success podcast, right? He talks about, everything that you do is the success. Like, every podcast that you host, every podcast that you're on, no matter, what it is, it's not when you go to the Academy Awards, it's everything that you did up to there. Like, those are successes, because you can't control the outcome, but what's in your control is what you do on the way, right? So what you're doing, that's success. You accomplished something. You achieved the goal. You did what you said you were going to do. You researched, you read a book. You attended an online class. You went to Udemy. You went to Vault and Powers and, took some courses. So, everything that you do, that's the success. So persevere, keep going, because that's going to be key in turning your setbacks into impact.
that's good stuff. And that's a wonderful way to end this podcast. I'm honored and humbled to have you here with us. I know
Humbled to
the
be here. Thank you
schedule.
so much.
Oh, cut it out.
Oh, really?
You
This was one of my favorite interviews. You did your research. This was awesome. This is great.
Well, I try to come with the spirit of excellence, knowing that you have attributes that I desired along the way. And like Jesus, you're taking them, I want to tell you, you are taking them to the next level. And so I'm just enamored and watching your journey, and I'm praying for your prosperity and your success and your impact in the various communities globally, because I know you are capable of impacting the world like never before. And so I'm just glad that you have joined the Victorious Outcast tribe. And I just want to invite folks to continue to keep an eye on us, to watch us for a more inspiring and experience people who pay wisdom forward. There's no cost. And if you connect to the tribe, there's always free bonuses and a lot of just wonderful things happening right here on the Victorious Outcast podcast. With that being said, I want to just wish you a wonderful journey forward and the ability to discern your path as you walk down it, because better things are ahead. That's a wrap.